much better than that photo that's on the screen. So that's statement one. Not what we're talking about though. Dan, what I would love for you to kick off with is tell me your franchise story. How did you fall into franchising? Like everybody else in franchising fell into this at some point. What's your franchise story?
All right. Well, I think it's an interesting story. I used to work in new construction, building houses. Had some guy come out, fix a bathtub for me. Just going back about 30 years. Fixed a little pinky-sized chip. Charged me $125. I don't know what hurt more, the dollar amount or how much my boss got mad at me about it, how much I spent. And I'm like, well, you told me to do it. But anyway, it kind of just stuck in my head. The guy gave me his business card. Moving forward a few years, opportunity arose. My father-in-law had retired. He wanted one of his kids to start their own business. Unfortunately for him, they're all professors. No one wanted to do it. So I approached him. I said, hey, Bill, that's his name. And I said, I'd be real interested in starting a business. He's like, okay, figure out what you want to do. Well, back then we didn't have the internet. Went to the newsstand, found a magazine on franchising, started looking through it, came across Surface Specialist Bathtub Repairs. The incident that I just explained popped back into my head. Still had the business card in my back pocket, and here we are.
I mean, that's that you definitely fell into it.
Yeah. And so it's been a good ride. I've been with Surface Specialist now for over 35 years. Been the franchisor for 20. I was, my original franchise, I built it up to the largest franchise at the time where we were producing over $1 million a year out of our business. 5 years in, the franchisor approached me about taking over when he retired. And like I said, already here I am.
So to be in the business as long as you have, and I mean, you've now been through a few different periods where private equity comes beating on the door to say, we're looking at buying things. It'd be rare to hold on to a business this long. What has made you hold on to it versus exiting? And do you stay the course on that?
Well, I love what I do. I love fixing things. Surface Specialists, yes, we do bathtub refinishing, we do bath replacements, bathtub liners. But, I guess my niche for myself is I love taking something brand new that's gotten messed up and making it right again. To me, there's a lot of satisfaction in that. Someone puts a hole in a tub, let's say as big as your head. All my franchises, including myself, of course, can make it disappear. And I've always liked that. I still like that. I do also like, from the franchisor standpoint, I like making business successful. I mean, there's a lot of satisfaction is taking someone, out of their garage, helping them build it. And it's a great feeling for me.
So if I'm hearing it correctly, it's like, why sell when I'm having fun? Like, right. What else am I gonna do?
Exactly. And then, inevitably, it's like anything else, you move on. But I have no intentions of doing that right now. I enjoy it too much.
Love it.
I like taking my guys and gals and making them successful. There's just a lot of satisfaction in seeing them, go from, not, working for somebody and then be able to do things that they were never able to do before.
So from a qualifying of a franchisee standpoint, it sounds like it's almost like you get to look in the mirror. You're looking for people that are like you. Is that like, obviously have business acumen and like doing the work? Is that right. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, that's a fair statement. My wife has put it the best. What we look for is people with blue collar skills with white collar minds.
It's interesting.
And I really think that kind of covers our model, pretty inclusively. I mean, you got to like working with your hands. If you don't like working with your hands, then yeah, this is probably not the place for you.
So it's owner operator then. Like you can't can you scale it beyond owner operator?
Oh yeah. There's no question. I have quite a few franchises. Initially, I really recommend first 6 months to a year the owner operates it. They got to understand it, and as you put employees on, they have to support the employees, and you can't support an employee if they're stuck if you don't know what they're stuck on.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But once you get past this 6 months to a year, it's real easy to pull yourself where you're just running the business and not doing the work anymore. It's really just getting through your first technician. But after that, then yes, you can certainly, sit back and run the business. You don't have to do the work. But under the same breath, you got to be able to back up your guy, So until you get to two guys, you're still the backup to your first guy. Because if they decide this is not for them, you got to be able to, come back in and, take over.
Yeah, that makes sense. How many franchisees do you currently have?
Franchisees, we have 37 owners and 49 locations. We have some franchises that have 2 or 3 franchises.
And if the numbers that I see on the screen are accurate, we're talking about an investment of 56.
Yes, sir. That's the max. The 36 is, for the franchise itself. That includes territory. We give a lot with our franchise packages. We give them all the equipment to do all the services. We give them enough material to produce $55,000 in sales. We pay for their flight and hotel while they're training. We give them pretty much everything to start a business. I mean, when they're done training and I send them their franchise package, they're probably like 96%, 97% there. I mean, they don't really have to do too much more. Now, what comes into play, though, is we have to account for the income while they're the startup part of it, that they have enough money to support themselves during that transition period. We usually estimate, say that we recommend at least 4 to 6 months of personal income, cover rent or mortgage, the regular day-to-day expenses. So, but that number is pretty accurate, yes.
All right, so now let's move down to the second box here.
Okay.
307 average gross sales. And obviously there's an outlier of a very, very mature business at 2.9 million. But if I look at these numbers, I would call this best in class. Do you feel like, has there been a gap in the amount of humans that know that this business exists when, people are investing, call it 120 into trash business, that the profitability or the gross sales are not even in line with yours? Like, is there something like not enough people know that you exist, or?
Well, it's that. It's also what you get into, and it's kind of going back to there's a lot of people out there, especially the younger generations, and all they want to do is IT. They don't want to get their hands dirty, which does limit you a little bit. I'm not one that's going to try to put on 20 franchises in a year. Usually we're averaging 3 to 6 a year. I try to, when I train a franchise, I do all the training, well, 90% of it. I try to give them all my time. I don't try to double up or triple up, because I want them to progress at their speed. And I find when you have 2 different guys training, or gals, whatever the case may be, because we do have female owners, one might move faster than the other, and then the one that's falling behind gets intimidated by it, and it doesn't become a good training for them. So, it might be a little bit me too, as far as, our pace.
Well, I mean, look, and I'm gonna blow smoke, but then I'm gonna give my advice. Blowing smoke wise, you've engineered a good business model. Even what you said on the training front, like, we're not gonna nickel and dime our franchisees. We're gonna get them on the right way. I'm gonna be the one that shows them the ropes. I've done it before. I've been doing this for a long time. And so if I'm looking for why people buy a franchise, it's I have to believe in the vision of the leader. And you're like, slow, steady growth. I'm going to do the right thing by my franchisees. I'm going to treat them as if it was my money that came in here, which is awesome. You get into what's the cost to get in, how much can I make? That's sound. You get point of differentiation in the marketplace. I'm sure there's some from a product side, but you're really, I'm sure, building people that can build relationships and do honest repairs, just like what drove you into franchising.
Mhm.
Validation has to be strong because the cost to get in is so sound with how much you can make that you are giving those that are willing to follow your system the opportunity to build wealth for their families. And then the growth side, I mean, you're giving 2 million territories, which is unheard of. So like if I look at the way that you position the business, you've done a fantastic job. You have realistic growth expectations. Now the opportunity, and this is what will happen someday. Someone's going to knock on your door and they're going to see this and they're going to say, "Man, if I branded this up into today's time, like put some energy into the branding, made sure that our vans are really, really crisp from a branding standpoint, tied the branding into the business model that you've engineered, you're probably like there's a lot of money left on the table. And not that money is your driver, but there's a lot of opportunity left on the table in what you've already engineered that, if this goes into one of those broker network brands, like this would take off tomorrow. And my other piece of advice, for what it's worth, that wasn't advice, that was a comment. I look at your costs to get in, and let's just take $150,000 as an investment range. That if I could get to owning 3 of these, on average, I could do around $1 million in business. And most brands, like you're saying, give me a return of 2 to 1. So even at 150,000, if 3 units could only do 300,000, you're still a sound business investment by franchise standards.
That's
and
correct.
So you've engineered something that's so beautiful here. But what you said, the complexity could be you. You're like, I don't need to grow that fast, which it's fascinating to me because I think like functionally from a business standpoint, you've done a great job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I like to think I've done well by my franchises. So
what's your vision now?
Just keep chugging along. I am 61. Inevitably I am going to retire. But we'll just keep going at the way we're going. And, if it picks up more, I'm okay with that too. I'm just not going to let it spiral to 20 a year. The training, is pretty intense. We train for 2 solid weeks here in Charlotte. I teach them on everything. You start, breaking that down 20 a year, that's 40 weeks. We're already blown through almost an entire year with no break. So I would be probably a little schizophrenic by the end of that pace since I'm doing all the training. So
I'm telling you, Dan, if someone's watching this, they're going to say, "Man, I see all the opportunity in the world. Let's let Dan be superhero in what he does, and let's put structure around this." Because, again, like you've engineered something great. So, to Ghost Prospect, let's say there's a franchise candidate that has watched this up to this point. What do you want them to know about the business that we haven't talked about yet?
That we're a fan. I look at our business overall with all our franchisees. We're a family, even as diversified as all our people are, when we have our yearly conventions, it's just one big group of, family. We work together. It's always a group effort, even, when they mess up, I never throw any of them under the table when they tell me something that, a catastrophe has happened, but I do talk about it. I just don't throw them under the bus with it. But it's just like I said, one happy family. Yeah.
Well, for one of the good guys in franchising, impressed with what you've done so far. Maybe I'll be the one that makes a phone call when you're ready to retire. I'll put the branding in place and let this thing fly. But I think you're going at it the right way, and probably some of the way that you're presenting yourself as a business is also helping you with the customer base, because they can probably see like you're not ripping them off because you're not overspending in some of the positioning that you have. And
no, I really utilize. Their 36,000 is actually utilized. They're getting quite a bit for the money.
Big deal.
By comparison, that's out there. I know it's out there. Some of my competitors, you got to buy the territory, and then you got to buy the equipment. And if you buy, the territory gets too big, and then you're paying another penny to a person, you know, with a minimum threshold of 360,000 or something like that, or, you know, I mean, everybody's different, but no, I mean, like I said, we want success, you know, so
I love
we
it.
try to give success.
I think you're doing a great job. Dan, thanks for sharing your franchise story with me and us. Dan, I'm Nick. This is another episode of Meet the Zor. Take care.
Thank you for having me. Have a
Of
great
course.
day.
You too.